Hello, Billy, are you there?
I'm here.
Hey!
We got everything. Hear me okay?
Yeah, we got everything all hooked up and working here. Welcome
good.
Welcome to WMBR. Welcome back, and thanks for coming on the air with us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah. Well, Billy's going to be here in Boston tonight. Down in Rhode Island, we're hanging out right now, but in Boston tonight with the Bill Kreutzmann Trio. They've been playing around New England and touring around, and anybody who's been listening to live rock and roll here in New England for the past 30 years knows about Scott Murowski from Max Creek, and you got him on guitar there, and of course, Of course, Oteil Burbridge from the Allman Brothers on bass and soulful vocals. So, tell us.
It's quite a trio. We've been having a heck of a good time. We surprise ourselves quite frequently.
Excellent. Yeah. Tell us more about what kind of repertoire you guys are doing in the shows.
Well, we do a little bit of everything. Probably right now we do a lot of dead tunes. We do Eyes of the World and Sugaree and just some of the favorite dead tunes, Estimated Prophet, and we're just having a great time with it. We take the songs and you see, I've always been of the ilk that if I would never want to be in a band that would do dead tunes poorly. And Scott played them in Max Creek, and Oteil is one of the fastest learners I've ever seen. And so we started playing around with these tunes, and they came out just wonderfully, they came out as if Jerry was playing them just about. And I hope that doesn't offend anybody, but I'll explain that in a minute. And so we do some dead tunes. We do a couple of Oteil's original tunes. We do a couple of Max Creek's original tunes. Okay.
All right. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to see Max Creek as far back as like 30 years ago when.
Yeah, I know they're still together, lucky boys.
Yeah.
Billy, how did this? I understand that this incarnation of you and the other guys got together through. Mike Gordon, who was, people may know as the bass player from Phish, and he was also the bass player in the Rhythm Devils. First off, I want to know how you got to connecting with Mike originally for the Rhythm Devils, and how this current incarnation got together.
Yeah, well, Mickey and I wanted to do Rhythm Devils, and we wanted a bass player that we could work with real well, and we knew could play really well. And we know that Mike could listen to Phil Lesh a lot. And so he had a lot of competence at that level, which is really remarkable. And so we asked him to play in the Rhythm Devils. And then back, last January 1st, I believe it was, before that, Mike called me and said, hey, I want to do a gig in Costa Rica, because his parents own a house down there in Huaco. It's on the Pacific side of Costa Rica, the surf side. It's kind of a surf town, And he asked me if I would do that, and I said, yeah, then who's going to play guitar? And he said, well, the guitar player from Max Creek. I'd never really heard of Max Creek. I'm such a, was in the Grateful Dead so much, and we're out in California, of course. No excuses, but I just hadn't really heard the band. I know they're excellent. And Scott and I related that night beyond belief. We played... I could play anything, any rhythm, go any place I wanted to do, make any sharp turns, really change the music up, and he was always right there. Not that I was trying to lose him or anything, it just that musically it was really complimentary. So that very night or the next day, I said, Mike, we got to keep doing this year. And Mike said, no, sorry, Bill, I have my own band, and I won't be able to dedicate big blocks of time to this new project. So I went back to my room and kind of shrugged for a little bit and thought, hey, am I going to go into that process of auditioning bass players, right?
Sure.
And I said, that's probably not a good idea. And I got a wise idea, and I went back and said, Mike, who would you suggest to play with me and Scott, right, as a trio? And he came up with Oteil Burbridge, which has been the most excellent idea in the whole world. So that's how that got started.
Excellent. What would you say the differences you find as a drummer playing with, I guess, between Mike Gordon, Oteil, and Phil?
They're just all different styles, Each one is an excellent player. I don't know. I would be playing with Mike right now if he had said yes, of course. But he pointed me towards Oteil, and that worked out really well. And Oteil when he's playing with the Allman Brothers, of course, he has to do Allman Brothers songs, and I think he plays 4-string bass there. And with me, I encourage him to play more free music, and he plays 6-string bass with this band, and it's just amazing. And the most amazing thing is the way that Scott and O'Teal relate to each other musically. It's incredible. It's so wonderfully tight and beautiful, you know. And then I get to be in the stew too, so it's great for me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. What would you say for you, Billy, would be the difference between saying, I guess generally speaking, playing by yourself as the sole drummer and playing with another drummer with, say, like Mickey?
Say like Mickey, huh? God bless you, Mickey. It's more like this. It's a trio. And it's not just another drummer. It's that there's less other musicians, too. There's just one guitar player, you know, no keyboards. And it allows me to be heard and all the little intricate stuff that really didn't get across because there were so many musicians and it would fill it up so much. You get to do now. You get to play more, which is really fun.
Yeah,
that's the beauty of a trio, you see, is that you have so much room. Actually, that was early on when we first started this thing. O'Teal was kind of concerned that we weren't going to be able to fill it out enough, but he's quite changed his mind. So, yeah.
And what about and when you talk about playing with other musicians filling up the void, what would you see as the difference for you personally, say in the early '70s when you were the only drummer, as opposed to playing with Mickey with all the other guys?
Well, when there's just one drummer, it drum set drummer, trap drummer,
right,
and percussionist. You get to move around farther. You know, you get to play farther out stuff. You just because you're freer. And when you're playing with two drummers, you have to really be conscious that you're staying with that other person and playing music that complements and stuff. And in this way, there's no thought like that. You're just playing from your heart. The music really plays the musicians, I would say, and I like that. I like the freedom of that. You know, the thing about this band that is such a get off for the other two guys to also, besides myself, is that it's just a total free band. We play the Grateful Dead songs like crazy, and then we jam. We don't even know how long we jam. Sometimes our jams are 30, 40 minutes long. And inside of those jams, there's 4 different new songs coming out. Because I encourage them both to play as freely as possible. I don't set rules. I believe in John Coltrane's famous statement, "Damn the rules," you know.
So you're still keeping
this
things...
This is like a real free space for me. And I've always wanted to have this, you know, when you're dealing with two other minds that are just as free and capable musicians. It's like the best I've ever gotten to do.
Well, sounds like the kind of ethos that was there when you guys started with the Grateful Dead 40 years ago.
You got that 100% correct, man. That was a well-said statement, because it feels like a new Grateful Dead, except that I know how to play better many years later, you know what I mean?
But I mean, the idea of just leaving things open and, you know, taking a jam off where it's going to go to, wherever that'll be, and then coming back to, you know, you don't...
We're not coming back, you know. Yeah. We don't have any... Sometimes we don't even have endings. We just stop, and that's the end of the song. So, but it's free like that, and I think it's the most musical that it could be. And I think, for sure, I can speak for Deadheads, I'm pretty damn sure, and that is, they want music to take them on a trip. You know, they don't want pop music or something that's linear. They want three-dimensional music, and that's what the bands do. I really believe that. I believe that they listen up tight and they listen close, and they know when we're really getting off. And the shows that we've been doing, the three of us, we blow our own minds. We have so much fun doing it, you know. So I know the audiences have been getting off really good. They've been really happy with our playing. I think you guys said you got some reports that we're doing okay out there.
Oh yeah, I've talked to some people who caught you down in Rhode Island, and they were they were pretty blown away. And I heard some good things about the New Hampshire show the other night too. And
yeah, it's like that. I mean, the audiences are just like, after a little while, I mean, I see people in the front row with their jaws dropped, you know. Yeah, I think the other thing too is that since I haven't been out playing publicly that much, we did the Rhythm Devils, of course, but since then I haven't been doing much playing. I think people are happy to see me out there.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is we're playing these smaller venues, which I like, because I'm close to the audience, and I really can feel the audience. You know, there's a real connection, as opposed to someplace, you know, giant stadium or something like that with the Grateful Dead. So we like that.
Yeah, it's nice being in a more personal setting, and we're always happy to lure you away from the Hawaii out there. You know,
it's a hard lure too, but especially with the way travel is now, and the airlines making it so darn difficult. But I'm planning to actually get a place in Martha's Vineyard, or at least somewhere up here in the eastern seaboard somewhere. It's got to be near the ocean for me. But just so Teal and Scott can be around, because Hunter has written. He's in a writing frenzy right now, Bob Hunter.
Wow.
And he sent me 12 new songs.
Wow, cool.
And I had to email him back apologies, saying I wish I could even get onto one of these, but we don't have time. We're either playing live or that's that. You know, we haven't had time to rehearse all that yet. But I can't wait. I want to do the new Hunter songs. I don't want to keep playing old Grateful Dead songs, except some of the really old, great, beautiful ones, you know. But I really am into playing new Hunter stuff and creating new Grateful Dead, so to speak, through this band.
Billy, do you have a favorite? If you could, I don't know, narrow it down to two, I guess. Favorite Grateful Dead song that you always loved to play and never got tired of playing?
Oh, lots of them. Like Brown Eyed Woman's one, Eyes of the World is one, Sugaree's one, Estimated Prophet is one, Terrapin is one. The list goes on and on. I mean, they're beautiful songs. So, many.
Okay, fair enough. Now
you know what I like about it? The Grateful Dead music was always so different. I mean, no one song was exactly the same as any other, and even inside of the song, it changed shape. Like one part, the bridge would come before the chorus. The next time, the chorus would come before the bridge. That's just a simple example. It's much more complicated than that. But just to give the listeners an idea, that kind of stuff I want to recreate in this band. And so we're going to take some time with the Hunter songs. We're not going to just throw them out there.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
Oh, that's great.
They deserve it. I mean, I can't tell you the words over the phone right now, but these new songs, some of them are really far out, man. He's on a roll.
Oh, that's great to hear. That's great to hear that he's back active doing that again. So because he's just a brilliant lyrical genius.
Yeah. Maybe it's because Obama's going to win the election, huh? Yay! A little plug there for you, Obama.
Yeah, well, we can't go too far with that, or we'll get ourselves in trouble here. But yeah.
Well, I said it. You didn't.
Yeah.
There you go, Bill. Yeah. So, tell me about your sort of early roots of playing drums. I read somewhere that you met Aldous Huxley in high school, who encouraged
Aldous Huxley. Yep. Yeah. I was playing. I went. My parents were having a hard time, and they were getting a divorce, and they sent me to a boarding school in Arizona, and I wasn't able to stay on a football team for various reasons, and so they signed me to horses, and I was going crazy. Okay, right? I didn't want to be a cowboy at 16, and it wasn't my roots. And I'd been playing drums since I was 13, and been in bands at home in Palo Alto, where I grew up. Since then, I mean. I started playing just after my first drum lesson. I was in a band. We just started, like, immediately. So they sent me to this prep school, and one day I'm playing in the auditorium where my dad had very kindly, the sweetheart, had crated all my drums without my knowledge, built these big old wood crates, and put them on a train and sent them out there to me.
Wow.
And so I got my drum set there. I was just, like, amazed. Really? I got something real to do now, something I really like to do. And besides learning Latin, And so I'm playing along one day, and the headmaster, and Aldous Huxley, who I didn't know was Aldous Huxley, walked into the room, and the headmaster puts his finger to his mouth like the shh signal, that sign, and I had to stop playing right away, and Aldous leans over to him and says, "No, I've never heard anything like that. Tell him to keep playing." That was really fun. It was like, wow, really? Aldous Huxley.
Well, that's a great endorsement there. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great. And speaking of other people like Aldous Huxley, I heard you once say that a way to get inside each other's minds. Are you still there?
I'm here.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. A way to get inside each other's minds playing would be to play on LSD. How can you comment on that and maybe the the passing of Albert Hoffman?
Oh, yeah, that just happened. He just passed away a little bit ago, didn't he?
He lived to be 102.
What is that? I'll tell you what that is. For me, LSD was always the one psychedelic which was the true psychedelic. I know we have peyote and mescaline and psilocybin and all these other ones, and they're true psychedelics too. The difference is LSD is really about you. It's not. It opens up who you are.
Sure.
And I mean, I think the other ones too. I guess ayahuasca's in there now these days. Gosh, I hope it's great to talk about all the stuff on the air. Anyway,
certainly is with me.
The best thing that ever happened to the Grateful Dead is this fellow Hank Harrison suggested that we all take LSD and play together, and he was right. You get away. You know, you learn to drop your ego. It's like the first biggest rule in this whole thing, right? Years and years ago, you learn about that, and you play music.
Yeah, well, that was really kind of part of what made the Grateful Dead so unique. I mean, of course, it was bluegrass, jazz, and country and blues and rock and roll, but it was LSD in there too.
Well, the LSD allowed all those colors. See, that's the point. It didn't. You didn't get locked down into judgment, or you should do it this way. You know, you could play all different styles, and like you just mentioned, and that was the fun of it for me. And not having to. I'll tell you what, I never would have been a 3-minute drummer. No way.
That's great. You played with speaking of another important figure who just passed away, Bo Diddley recently passed away. And tell us about your they just released the Dick's Picks of the Dead at the Academy of Music playing what was it like playing with Bo Diddley, and what would you say his influence was? For me, and of course the cat was amazing, but for me, his biggest input to me was his rhythm. You know, his basic Bo Diddley rhythm, sure,
which became Not Fade Away, and it was used a lot. You know, so that was for me. That was it, and just the sound of his guitar and the way he felt when you listened to his music, the way the music felt, really important.
What was it? What was it like playing with him?
I don't, I would make that up, and I don't want to do that. I don't really remember. I just remember that he influenced me rhythmically tremendously.
Okay, sure.
And that was off of records and stuff, and I'm sure playing with him was great. I just don't remember the gig. I'd be lying if I told you I did.
Well, it wasn't that far after the 60s, so you know what they say about if you remember it or not.
Yeah, I heard about that famous saying.
Yeah.
You guys are great.
Bill, where did the name Bill Summers come from?
That's such a funny question. I guess I can tell this now that I get in trouble. I guess the statute of limitations is passed by now. I wasn't 21. And we had, in the olden days in California, now you can be 18 and stay away from the bar and play in bars, right? You had to be 21. So I walked into the DMV and got a driver's license that said Bill Summers. And I was only 17 or 18.
So you had to give him a phony name, and that's the name you chose?
That's all I did. In those days, because I'm older than you guys probably, I'm 62, and in those days, you could just walk in and fill out a form, and that was that. You didn't have to show them ID or anything. Since 9/11, it's kind of changed.
Well, and all the computer networking that allows them to do that. But
yeah.
And you could fake your birth date and everything, and they wouldn't demand information.
They wouldn't invite. You didn't have to show a birth certificate or any type of proof of age or anything.
Well,
and I always looked old for my age. I was kind of big for my age. So when I was 17 or 18, I went in and did that. I can't remember. Probably 18.
That's pretty great. What
now am I going to hear? Now am I going to hear from the California DMV?
So I noticed you came up. You've been doing some art as well as drumming, and you've had some galleries around. And how would you say that painting relates to the similarities you see as the one who creates them of drumming and your art?
That's a good question. It came from this idea. First, I love hanging art. I love picture art. Okay, and I started out with Photoshop 3. And it's now CS3, which is light years different. But I just believe that, if you're creative in one field, drumming, you're creative in anything you want to put your mind to it. Anything that you can feel a passion for. And so I just started playing with the computer. Jerry actually showed me how to use Photoshop 3. This is well known, I think. And I became so attracted to it that I couldn't put it down. I couldn't stop doing it. And I found myself coming up and making pictures. And after about 3 or 4 or 5 years of this, somebody, it was actually in Hawaii, somebody said, Bill, why don't you show them? Why don't you produce them? And I learned how to make them bigger and better and all this kind of stuff. And I don't actually do that anymore. I'm probably going to do regular hands-on art, meaning instead of using computer at all, I do oils or acrylic, but oils probably for sure.
Wow. Well, still...
I love colorful things. I also came from the school of LSD, remember? And it sort of has a built-in color thing with it. You know?
Sure. Do you think of colors, colors and shades when you're drumming? And sort of, do you? I actually try not to think too much when I'm drumming. Okay.
I try to feel more than try to think. I don't have any pre-programmed ideas. I may know what song we're going to do, and I know what part to play to that song, but that's about it.
Mm.
And the colors come in they just do.
Sure. I can see that.
What I'm trying to say is there's no formula for any of that. It just comes from a creative place that I celebrate, and I'm glad I have.
You can see some examples of it, I believe, at ocean-spirit.net.
And that's exactly right. You got to remember that dash between ocean and spirit. Yep.
Or it could be a hyphen.
Whatever that word is, whatever that is, it's the line between.
and any. Maybe you get asked this a lot, but I'll ask it again. Any funny anecdotes you can share about Mr. Garcia?
I got a really oddball one, since we've been talking about LSD a little bit. After an acid test, we had played together. Him and I ended up at his house, and we went through the whole house and cleaned it. Can you imagine Garcia and Kreutzmann cleaning his house? And the next night, the church across the street burned down.
Wow.
They really did this in Palo Alto. That's a real old anecdote.
Yeah, I sort of remember having that same feeling myself, or one day, one day in an experience like that, every little piece of paper on the ground, the tiniest one, bothered me, and I felt the need to clean it. So I can.
I know there's something about
I can definitely relate.
Trip that does that. It's like, okay, we got to fix all this or put this in order or whatever it is. Well, that's cool. That's good stuff.
Sure. or order out of chaos, I guess.
Yeah, or maybe chaos is order.
And anything you remember about, since we're coming up on the, or we already did on the, I guess 31st, is that right? Maybe it's 41st anniversary of playing Monterey.
41st.
Yeah, I actually was really surprised. Amy, my wonderful girlfriend, she said, Bill, you got to check this Monterey stuff out, because I used to feel pretty poorly about it, like the band hadn't played very well, because we were sandwiched between the Who and Jimi Hendrix, and the Who, of course, were in their fancy English suits. It was during the English invasion and all that, and they were in their fancy suits, and Keith Moon was crashing his drums, and Townsend was doing leaps, and his guitar, whatever you call that, the
windmills, yep,
yeah, windmill, right on, and. Then there was this little hippie band from the Haight-Ashbury, the Grateful Dead. Okay, and I remember I actually got sick to my stomach. I was so nervous about it before I went on. And Amy got me to look at this show, and I was blown away. The music sounded really good. So it's funny how your mind will trap you if you let it, And then, of course, Hendrix came on after us and sat there and burned his guitar in front of everybody, and I thought for sure we had played terribly compared to all that. And maybe we hadn't put on a show like those guys did, but the music was quite nice. And I heard it back, I think it was, I hope this isn't bad, but it was on YouTube, something like that, I was impressed. I was like, God, really? We played that good? Why did I ever think it was the other way,
Do you feel sometimes, I mean, I know this personally from playing, that sometimes you relate how you felt personally during a performance about how good the performance actually was, and you're
100%. That's a famous musician's I don't want to call it a problem, but that's a famous quirk of musicians, is they can come off stage feeling terrible and make the mistake of telling a fan that might come up and say, God, that was the nicest thing I ever heard. I loved you tonight. And making the mistake of saying, oh, we played horribly, and then ruining their high, right? Ruining their buzz.
Yeah.
I learned a long time ago that if I had some personal feelings that were making me feel bad, doesn't mean the music sounded bad.
Sure.
That's just how I was feeling, so I won't give that to that person. But that used to be a real problem.
Interesting. What do you remember, Bill, about Egypt?
It was overwhelming. The energy from the pyramids and the sphinxes and the gig and all that. It was totally overwhelming. And actually, we played there 3 nights. And one thing I remember, I'll tell you a story about the Bedouins, and they're nomadic people. You know about that. Mm-hmm. And they ride camels and they live their own lives and have their own rules, and they're really not controlled by any government whatsoever. And they just roam. And the first night we played at this little outdoor theater in front of the Sphinx, and it held about 2,000 people. And there was by the end of the night, there was a camel thickness all the way around the outside. A Bedouin sitting there cross-legged, and you'd see a little glow in the guy's head, right? And that was it. And then by the end of the third night, they were 10 deep. We drew Bedouins.
Nice.
I thought it was pretty far out. But the band had trouble playing. I had particular trouble because I had just broken my wrist before this tour like an idiot. And I had to play one-handed the whole tour.
Mm.
And the uniqueness of that wore off quite quickly.
I heard there were a number of reasons why that was recorded but never released. So
yeah, but I actually think that we're now with Rhino Records, and they're doing a wonderful job preserving the legacy of the Grateful Dead. Mm-hmm. And I really am happy that we did that deal. I think the Deadheads will get onto that and realize that, wow, all this stuff is being protected. You see Santa Cruz is actually opening up a library for just Grateful Dead. We're moving all our Eileen
Law?
Yeah, Eileen Law, who received all the letters and pictures and stuff you could never put on sale because you don't own it. They just send it to you. It is a compliment, and we kept it all. And so now they're putting it in their library at UC Santa Cruz, and they're actually opening a room, a dead room. You can go in that room and get any part out you want to read, so forth and so on. I think that's great.
That sounds fantastic.
Because we were missing that before. There was no availability. There was nothing online. You couldn't see the stuff online. So this will change all that.
I'm definitely looking forward to possibly the summer going out and checking out the exhibit. It sounds definitely intriguing and enticing.
It's not just an exhibit. An exhibit means it's open for so long. It's a permanent part of their deal. So it must have had a little effect out there, huh?
Sure. When would you say? I've always wondered about this. That the drums space portion of the Grateful Dead shows became a instead of a little percussion jam or you doing a drum solo. When do you think the drums space part became this is it? We got to do this every show and.
I'm just the worst guy to ask for dates. I just am. I don't mean to be avoiding this question. Yep. You really have to ask Mickey. I don't know, but you're right. There was actually a big change where we would take our time and stuff, but I don't know when that started.
Do you remember the impetus for having it become a regular part of the show?
Just because we wanted to do it and we had so much more to say and during vocals and stuff, you can't be doing all that percussion. You can, but it's not going to work too well. Probably the impetus was just to have a free space to do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And why did it go? I always liked the sort of more natural sounding drums.
Organic.
The organic flavor in sort of the mid '80s, as opposed to the sort of the MIDI realm that you guys went into a little later on.
Yeah.
What was
you know what the difference really? If you listen real clearly, I don't know about the MIDI part of that, but all of the sounds that we used, Mickey created that from recording really good recordings of real instruments. So it's all real instrument sounds. It's not electronically made sounds at all.
Sure. So
he took pride in doing that in the high sample rates and stuff like that.
Yeah, it seemed sometimes it got maybe it was the beam. It seemed to get a little.
The beam. I love the beam.
Nice.
Yeah, beam me up, okay?
All right, Scotty.
Yeah, well, you'll be beaming up to Boston here tonight to the Roxy.
Yeah, you know what? My fear is that the Lakers might win tonight. No. My good friend Bill Walton's son plays on the Lakers, Luke.
Yeah.
So you might notice on his arm he's got a big Grateful Dead logo on it.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
What?
So I think we're going to be in big competition tonight with the game, and so I hope that people do come out. I mean, tomorrow night, right? Yeah, it is tonight.
That's tonight. Tomorrow night, you're down in New Haven, Connecticut.
Right on. Thanks a lot for that.
Yeah, down at Toad's place. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you need to remember your itinerary, give me a call.
Yeah, you know what? This being a new band, we haven't been like having the sharpest itinerary management, as it were. So but I'm not worried about it. You know what happens is we get on stage and we have so much fun that any of the rough spots in the tour don't really matter. It's just like, oh, okay, so what?
Well, it was great of him getting us in touch with you for this little radio interview here, and we.
Well, you guys are great because you're one of the few radio stations of your kind. You know, I was talking to one of you guys earlier, and KKCR on Kauai is the only community radio station in the Hawaiian Islands. And it's also streamed. You can also go online too. And my lady friend Amy, once again, she's a DJ. She does the Grateful Dead hours on Saturday night.
Cool.
And and when they go into their pledge drive and stuff, they do really well. They raise more money in the Grateful Dead land than they do on the other shows. So it's pretty amazing out there. Deadheads are like kind of quiet until you get them to a show, then you get it going.
We're definitely all looking forward to doing that tonight. Let me ask you.
Well, what I suggest is everybody makes little portable TVs, turns the volume off, and watches the game and listens to the music.
Well, I don't know if they have one on in the corner of this place or something. You know, they might have one over in the.
I actually guarantee you they're going to have one on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I told them to.
It's on the rider.
Yeah.
And anything before we let you go here? Any two other things? Can you comment on Bill Graham, memories of Bill and?
Well, I tell you what, man, he was the best of the promoter world. He knew how to put on shows. He was an entertainer, you know, and he was just the best. He'd put on the best New Year's Eve shows, and after he left us, darn it, we tried doing some more New Year's Eve shows, and they were kind of pale. You need that energy. You can't just do the thing without having that person's energy, you know. And he encouraged. I mean, at the very beginning, check this out. We used to be called the Warlocks, which thank God we didn't keep that name because there was another band at the time called that. And so we changed the name to the Grateful Dead, and he wouldn't book us as the Grateful Dead. He said, "I can't put that up on a billboard. It's too weird." We went, "That's why we like it."
No one's going to come see you guys, right?
Yeah, but he'd say the Grateful Dead, formerly the Warlocks, for about a week, and then anyway, he was great, man. He had the true energy. He was like a father to us, you know, and he'd gone through some real hard stuff in his life. You know, he came from the concentration camps, for Christ's sake, and he knew really how to take care of business.
Do you remember the night you guys dosed Bill and you gave him a cowbell at the end of the night?
Yeah, we couldn't get it back from him. He probably broke 20 sticks on the damn thing. He loved music. That was the thing, you know, and it was really apparent.
What, do you? Speaking of the bills that Bill put on, do you have any favorite people that you played with? Favorite bills that you were?
Well,
on?
that was one of the best things about Bill Graham. It's a great question. Excuse me. Yeah, he would have Otis Redding right there, and I stood 10 feet in front of Otis Redding and watched his band.
Wow.
He'd have all kinds of heavy players on there, and that was actually one of my music schools, was thanks to Bill Graham. And one time at the Carousel Ballroom, you guys know about that place?
Sure.
Right? He had Miles Davis open for the Grateful Dead. We could hardly go on and play after that. But how do you follow Miles Davis? You know?
Well, I think I remember hearing this story where Miles was doing Sketches of Spain, and we got to go on after that.
I mean, God, we were just like laid on the floor going, blah, blah, blah. When are we going to play that comes even close to that? And we went on and had a really great night.
Did Miles stick around and tell you what he thought of your performance?
I wish I could tell you that I remember that, but I don't remember that. So.
Fair enough. And closing, what would you make of the supposed San Francisco versus L.A. rivalry? Was that all hyped up?
Musically, you mean?
Yeah. Was that all hype, or was there something to that?
No, they're just different styles. L.A. had a lot of there was just different music, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I just never would allow competition into music. You know, that's the business part of this thing, and I just go out and play the best I can, do what I can do the best, and the difference is mostly that there were maybe some more pop orientation from L.A. and San Francisco was totally free with Janis, Big Brother and Holding Company, Us, you know, the Charlatans, you know, those bands all were like kind of wild, loose bands.
Mm-hmm.
And that would probably be the difference.
Well, you're keeping the spirit going, and we'll be seeing it tonight here in Boston over at the Roxy. So,
well, thank you very much, man.
Thank you very much.
I'll definitely be there.
Thanks very much for spending the time with us, Bill Kreutzmann, drummer.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
You guys are great.
It's definitely been an honor. I've loved your work for years, Bill.
Thank you guys, man. Well, that's why I'm still doing it, because I can, and I'm in good shape at 62. I tell you what, I don't know how it feels to be 62. I'm really lucky. I'm blessed with a real flexible body. I don't have to, do yoga or stretches unless I want to.
Well, that's great. No,
keep on keeping on this day.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for talking with us, and we definitely look forward to seeing the trio tonight down at the Roxy in Boston.
We'll be there.
All right, sounds great. All right.
Okay, bye, you guys.
Thanks for talking with us, Bill. Take care.
Okay, man. Bye.